Welcome everyone to Freema English Podcast, the podcast where we help you improve your English naturally through powerful, emotional, and deeply human conversations. Today, we're exploring a topic that says so much about who we are, our hobbies, and we'll guide you through how to talk about them in real, meaningful English.
Yes, and before we begin, we want to gently remind all our listeners to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode, because your support allows us to create more conversations that help you learn English with confidence, emotion, and purpose. Now, let's dive into today's topic, hobbies, the activities that help us feel alive and connected to ourselves.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about my hobbies lately, because life has been so busy that I almost forgot how much joy they bring me. And I realized how important it is to make time for the things that make us feel like ourselves again.
I completely understand that feeling because hobbies are not just activities we do for fun. They're part of our identity, part of our emotional balance. And when we ignore them, it's like ignoring a small but meaningful piece of who we are. One hobby that always brings me peace is photography. When I walk outside with my camera, the world suddenly slows down. I start noticing small details. Sunlight on a window, reflections on water, the quiet beauty of everyday life. That sounds so calming, and I can imagine how taking photos makes you feel present. Almost like each picture captures not only the moment, but also the emotion you were feeling when you pressed the button.
Exactly, and sometimes I think photography teaches me to see the world with softer eyes. To appreciate the simple things I usually walk past without noticing, and that awareness helps me feel grounded.
One of my favorite hobbies is painting, and even though my hands get messy with colors, I love the feeling of expressing something inside me through shapes and textures that I could never explain with words alone.
I admire that so much, because painting requires vulnerability. You're putting your emotions onto a canvas where they become visible, honest, and real, and that takes courage.
It does, but it's also healing when I paint. I feel like I'm releasing feelings I didn't even know I was carrying. And by the time I finish, I understand myself a little better.
It's amazing how hobbies help us process our emotions without even trying. They give us a gentle space to breathe, to reflect, and to reconnect with parts of ourselves we sometimes forget exist.
Yes, and I think hobbies remind us that life is not only about responsibilities, but also about joy, creativity, and curiosity. And we all need moments where we feel free to play and explore.
Another hobby I love is cooking, especially experimenting with new recipes. Because the kitchen becomes a place where I can create something beautiful, even if the result isn't always perfect.
Cooking is such a comforting hobby. And I love how it engages all the senses, the smell of fresh ingredients, the sound of food sizzling, the warmth of the stove. It's like a little celebration in your home.
And sometimes, when I'm cooking, I forget all the stress from my day. And suddenly the world feels smaller, quieter, and kinder. Like everything is okay as long as there's something warm on the stove.
One feel the same way when I read. Opening a book feels like opening a door to another world. And for a moment, my problems fade into the background as the story takes me somewhere new.
Reading really is magical, and I admire how you can lose yourself in a story. Because that ability to escape for a moment is something many people wish they could do more often.
Books have saved me many times, especially on difficult days, because they remind me that there are countless ways to see the world. Countless lives we can temporarily step into.
Do you think hobbies can change the way we see ourselves?
Absolutely, because hobbies show us sides of ourselves we might never discover through work alone. Our creativity, our curiosity, our patience, our passion, all the qualities that make us unique.
I've noticed that when I make time for my hobbies, I feel less stressed and more connected to myself. As if these moments of joy help rebuild the parts of me that daily life wears down.
Yes, because hobbies recharge our emotional batteries, giving us energy to face challenges with a clearer mind and a more hopeful heart.
Sometimes I feel guilty for taking time to enjoy myself, but then I remember that hobbies aren't a waste of time, they're self-care. And self-care makes everything else in life easier.
Exactly. And I wish more people understood that rest and joy are essential, not optional, because they're what keep our spirits strong and our minds healthy.
Before I forget, I want to remind our amazing listeners that if this conversation is helping you learn new expressions and talk about your hobbies with confidence, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, because every bit of support helps this podcast grow.
Yes, and we really enjoy reading your comments, especially when you share your own hobbies, because it creates a sense of community where learners from around the world connect through their interests.
You know, I've always admired people who play musical instruments, because music feels like a language that speaks directly to the heart without needing any translation.
I feel that too, and sometimes I wish I could play the piano. Not professionally, but just enough to sit down in the evening and let my fingers express feelings I can't put into words.
Maybe you should try. I think hobbies become more meaningful when they challenge us gently, pushing us to grow without pressure or judgment.
You're right, and I think learning something new, even slowly, brings a sense of accomplishment that reminds us we're capable of more than we think.
I remember the first time I picked up a guitar. My fingers hurt, the chords sounded terrible, but somewhere inside me, I knew that learning would bring joy. And that hope kept me practicing.
That's such a beautiful mindset. And I think the best hobbies are the ones that teach us patience, resilience, and the ability to enjoy progress, even if it's small.
Do you ever feel like hobbies bring out the most authentic version of ourselves? The version that isn't shaped by expectations, but by genuine curiosity.
Yes, because hobbies allow us to explore who we are without fear of failure. And in that exploration, we discover hidden strengths and forgotten dreams.
Sometimes I think hobbies are little messages from our hearts, guiding us toward what we truly love, even when our daily lives pull us in different directions.
And when we listen to those messages, life starts to feel more meaningful, because we're giving attention to the things that nourish our souls.
I believe that hobbies can even improve our relationships, because when we're happier and more balanced, we communicate better, understand others more deeply, and bring more warmth into our connections.
That's true, because joy is contagious. When we do things we love, the positive energy naturally spreads to the people around us, creating healthier and more supportive environments.
It's interesting how something as simple as drawing, cooking, or walking can change our whole mood, almost like flipping a switch inside our hearts.
Yes, because hobbies remind us that happiness doesn't always come from big achievements. Sometimes it comes from small, consistent moments of joy that we create for ourselves.
And the beautiful part is that everyone's hobbies are different, which means everyone has their own unique way of finding peace and pleasure in life.
Exactly, and that diversity is what makes conversations about hobbies so interesting. They reveal personal stories, hidden passions, and unexpected parts of someone's personality.
Before we continue, let me remind our listeners again to subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast, especially if you're enjoying these long, emotional conversations that help you grow both your English and your inner world.
I'm starting to realize that hobbies are not just something we do. They are part of how we understand ourselves, how we heal, and how we stay connected to the things that make life beautiful. And I think that when we talk about our hobbies, we're also talking about our hearts. What makes us feel alive? What brings us comfort? And what gives us a sense of purpose?
Sometimes I wish people talked more openly about the things they love doing, because these conversations build connections so quickly, showing us who someone really is beneath the surface.
That's true, because hobbies reveal authenticity. And authenticity is what creates trust, friendship, and closeness between people.
I feel like today's conversation is reminding me to make more time for my hobbies, especially on days when stress feels heavy, because those moments of joy are exactly what keep me emotionally balanced.
And I'm feeling the same. This conversation is helping me reconnect with the hobbies I've neglected, reminding me how much joy they brought into my life, and encouraging me to rediscover them with a fresh heart.
You know, the more we talk about hobbies, the more I realize how much they shape our emotional well-being, because whenever life becomes stressful or overwhelming, returning to something we enjoy feels like returning home to ourselves.
I feel the same, because hobbies give us a soft place to land when the world feels heavy, and I think having something that brings comfort, even for a few minutes, can change the entire direction of your day.
Sometimes I wonder why we stop doing the things that make us happy, even though we know they help us feel more peaceful and connected. Maybe it's because the world teaches us to prioritize productivity over joy.
Yes, society often pushes us to work harder, achieve more, and stay constantly busy, but hobbies gently remind us that being human means needing rest, creativity, and moments of pure enjoyment.
One hobby I really want to spend more time on is journaling. I used to write my thoughts every night, and it helped me understand myself in ways I never expected, like hearing my own voice clearly for the first time.
Journaling is incredibly powerful because writing allows our feelings to come out slowly and safely, giving us space to process emotions that might be too heavy to say out loud.
I think hobbies that involve self-expression, writing, drawing, music, all help us discover our inner world, the part of ourselves we ignore while rushing through daily routines.
Exactly. And when we connect with our inner world, we also become calmer, more compassionate, and more patient with ourselves, because we finally understand what our hearts are trying to say.
Do you ever feel like hobbies help you heal? Not just relax, but truly heal something inside you?
Absolutely, because hobbies give us gentle moments where we can release stress, sadness, or confusion without forcing anything. Sometimes healing happens naturally when we allow ourselves to enjoy life again.
Magical forest path with glowing, talking rocks scattered around. Leo kneels near a small rock. Mila observes carefully. Bobby laughing at the rock's faces. Gentle forest sounds. Soft, mystical music. Dialogue. Forest. Even the smallest rock has a story. Leo. Hello, little rock. Can you tell us your story? Bobby. I hope it's a funny one. I love laughing. Need any text or word in the screen?
Yes, and we truly love reading your comments, especially when you tell us about your own hobbies. It feels like we're building a worldwide community of people learning English together through emotion and connection.
You know, another hobby I enjoy is taking long walks without any destination. Just letting my feet guide me and allowing the world around me to become a quiet companion.
That sounds beautiful, and I can imagine how walking helps your mind slow down, giving you mental space to think, reflect, or simply enjoy the rhythm of your steps.
Sometimes I walk for an hour and come back feeling like a completely different person, as if the fresh air gently washed away the stress that was piling up inside me.
Nature has that power. It heals us without saying a word. And even a simple walk can make life feel a little softer, a little lighter.
I used to think hobbies needed to be impressive or productive, but now I see that even the simplest activities can be meaningful if they bring peace to our hearts.
Exactly, because hobbies aren't about impressing anyone. They're about connecting with yourself and creating moments of joy that you don't need to explain or justify. Yes, watering my plants. It sounds so simple, but watching them grow day by day makes me feel calm and hopeful, like I'm taking care of something quietly and patiently.
That's beautiful, and it reminds me of how growth works. Slow, gentle, invisible at first, but eventually you realize how far you've come, both in life and in the things you love.
Yes, hobbies teach us patience, because nothing grows overnight, not plants, not skills, not even emotional healing. Everything takes time, and hobbies help us enjoy that process.
Sometimes, I think hobbies are like mirrors. They show us who we are when no one is watching, revealing our natural curiosity and creativity.
And that reflection is important because it helps us understand ourselves more deeply, especially in a world where we often get lost in responsibilities and forget what brings us joy.
I've learned that when I practice my hobbies regularly, I become more balanced emotionally, more patient, more focused, and more grateful.
Yes, because hobbies give us emotional rest, and emotional rest is just as important as physical rest. It allows us to return to the world with a calmer, clearer mind.
Do you ever notice that on days when you don't engage in any of your hobbies, life feels a little heavier, almost like something is missing?
All the time, because hobbies act like small anchors that keep us steady. And when we ignore them for too long, we start drifting away from ourselves.
I think that's why conversations like this matter. They remind us to make space for joy, creativity, and self-expression, even in busy lives.
Yes, and talking about hobbies also helps us connect with others, because sharing what we enjoy opens the door to deeper understanding and meaningful relationships.
Before we continue, I'd like to gently remind our listeners to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because these conversations take time and love to create. And your support encourages us to keep going.
Yes, and every new subscriber makes our community grow stronger. So thank you for being part of this journey and for learning English with an open mind and heart.
You know, another hobby I enjoy is listening to music at night. Especially slow, peaceful songs that make me feel calm and help me reflect on the day without rushing.
Music has such a powerful effect on emotions. It can calm us, inspire us, and even help us release feelings we didn't know we were holding inside.
Sometimes a single song can express something I've been trying to explain for years, and listening to it makes me feel understood, even though no one said any words to me.
Yes, music feels like a language of the heart. And when we connect with a song, it becomes a companion that stays with us through our memories and emotions.
Do you feel like your hobbies help you stay emotionally balanced?
Absolutely, because when I paint, write, or water my plants, I feel grounded, present, and connected to myself, and those moments give me strength to face whatever challenges come next.
Hobbies also teach us discipline, in a gentle way, not the strict kind, but the kind that comes from passion, where we want to improve simply because it makes us happy.
Yes, and that kind of discipline is powerful because it doesn't come from pressure, but from genuine love for the activity. And that makes growth feel natural instead of forced.
I've noticed that talking about hobbies with others creates deeper conversations than talking about work or daily routines. Because hobbies reveal the emotional side of a person.
Exactly. Hobbies show us what someone cares about, what inspires them, what brings them joy, and that information helps us understand them on a more personal level.
Sometimes I think hobbies are small windows into someone's soul. They show what brings them peace, what excites them, what helps them breathe.
Yes, and that's why I love asking people about their hobbies. Their eyes brighten, their voice softens, and for a moment you see their true personality.
I hope our listeners feel inspired today to reconnect with their hobbies or discover new ones that bring joy and meaning into their lives.
Yes, and I hope they remember that hobbies are not selfish. They are essential for emotional well-being, and everyone deserves time to enjoy the things that make them feel alive.
Before we close this section, I want to remind our listeners one more time to subscribe, like, comment, and share, especially if this conversation is helping you learn English in a real, emotional, and natural way.
Yes, your support truly means the world to us, and it helps us continue creating powerful episodes that connect English learning with emotional growth.
Talking to you about hobbies has reminded me how important it is to slow down and make time for joy. Because without joy, life becomes a list of tasks instead of a meaningful journey.
And I feel the same. This conversation is helping me remember the hobbies I love, and it inspires me to return to them with a warm, open heart.
You know, as we continue talking about our hobbies, I realize that these small activities, the ones we often overlook because they seem simple or ordinary, actually hold the power to bring us back to ourselves. Especially on days when life feels confusing or emotionally heavy, and that realization makes me appreciate them even more deeply than before.
I completely understand what you mean, because hobbies often act like quiet reminders that joy doesn't always come from big achievements or dramatic moments, but rather from the gentle, consistent experiences that allow us to feel peaceful, expressive, and connected to the softer parts of our hearts.
Sometimes I catch myself thinking about how different my life feels when I give even a little bit of time to my hobbies, because suddenly the world seems less overwhelming. Almost as if these personal activities help organize my emotions in a way that makes everything around me feel more manageable and meaningful.
That's the beauty of engaging in something you love, because hobbies quietly shift your energy, helping your mind slow down, helping your heart breathe, and reminding your spirit that there is beauty in the simple act of doing something just for yourself, without needing a reason or a result.
And interestingly, every time I return to my hobbies after being away from them for too long, I feel this deep sense of relief, like I'm reconnecting with a forgotten part of myself that has been waiting patiently, hoping I would remember the joy it can bring into my life.
Yes, it feels almost like meeting an old friend, one who understands you without any explanation, and the moment you return to that activity, you realize how much comfort and emotional clarity it has always given you, even when you didn't know how to describe the feeling.
You know, I've also noticed that hobbies often reveal what our minds need most, sometimes creativity, sometimes quiet, sometimes movement. And the way we choose a hobby often reflects what our heart is silently asking for at that particular moment in our lives.
That's so true, because when I choose to paint, it usually means I need emotional expression. When I choose to read, it means I need escape or imagination. And when I water my plants, it means I need peace and gentle care, not just for them, but for myself as well.
Lately, I've been thinking about starting a new hobby. Something that challenges me a little, but still feels enjoyable, not to become good at it quickly, but to experience the simple happiness of learning something new without pressure or fear of making mistakes.
I love that idea, because starting a new hobby opens the door to fresh emotions and discoveries, and it reminds us that we are never too old, too busy, or too tired to experience curiosity, growth, and excitement in our everyday lives.
Sometimes I wonder how many people forget to explore new hobbies because they think they won't be good at them, when in reality, hobbies aren't about perfection at all. They're about experiencing joy, creativity, and emotional release without worrying about performance or comparison.
I think many people struggle with that, because society often teaches us to focus on results instead of enjoyment. But hobbies invite us to reconnect with the childlike part of ourselves that simply wants to explore, play, and enjoy without any expectation of being perfect.
And I've realized that some of the best moments in my life came from hobbies I wasn't even good at, moments filled with laughter, mistakes, curiosity, and a feeling of freedom that I sometimes miss in my everyday routine.
Exactly, because hobbies give us permission to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to laugh at ourselves, and to enjoy the journey without rushing toward a destination. And that kind of freedom is rare in adult life, but incredibly important for our emotional well-being.
It's funny how, when we talk about hobbies like this, it becomes clear that they're not just activities, they're reflections of our inner lives, showing us what we treasure, what we hope for, and what brings light into our hearts even during difficult times.
Yes, hobbies act almost like emotional mirrors, revealing our deepest needs, our hidden desires, and the parts of our soul that long for expression. And when we listen to those reflections, we learn how to take better care of ourselves.
Lately, I've been thinking about how hobbies also help build resilience, because when we give ourselves time to rest, create, and enjoy life, we become stronger, more balanced, and more capable of handling challenges without losing ourselves in the process.
That's absolutely true. And I believe that taking time for our hobbies isn't selfish at all. It's a form of emotional maintenance, a way of nurturing our mental health and ensuring that we don't burn out or disconnect from the parts of life that bring meaning.
By the way, to all our wonderful listeners who are enjoying this deep conversation, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your support helps keep this podcast alive, growing, and able to create even more heartfelt English learning moments just like this one.
Yes, and every time you comment or share your hobbies with us, it makes this community feel more connected and alive, reminding us that people from all around the world can come together through language, emotion, and shared human experiences.
You know, when I think about the hobbies that shaped my childhood, drawing, exploring outside, collecting small things I found interesting, I realize that hobbies have always been part of who I am, even before I understood what the word hobby meant.
That's such a beautiful realization, because childhood hobbies are often our most authentic ones, chosen simply because they made us happy. And reconnecting with those early joys can bring a sense of innocence and comfort into our adult lives.
Sometimes I wonder what would happen if more adults allowed themselves to play, explore, and be curious again, the way children do. Without fear of judgment or failure, I think the world might feel a lot softer and more joyful.
I completely agree, because when adults rediscover the joy of creativity and play, they reconnect with a part of themselves that was never meant to disappear, only to grow and evolve through different stages of life.
And hobbies are often the bridge between the person we used to be and the person we are becoming, helping us transition through difficult times with comfort and through happy times with celebration.
Yes, hobbies grow with us, change with us, and adapt to our lives, offering support when we need healing and offering inspiration when we're ready to expand and explore something new.
Do you ever notice how talking about hobbies naturally deepens conversations because you're not just discussing activities, but opening a window into someone's personality, values, and emotional world? I've also realized that hobbies can be a form of emotional communication, a way of expressing things we might struggle to say directly, like painting to express sadness or playing music to express hope.
Yes, and that emotional language makes hobbies so powerful. Because sometimes our hands, our creativity, or our movement can express what our words are too shy or too tired to reveal.
Recently, I've been wanting to try meditation as a hobby, not in a serious or formal way, but simply as a quiet moment each day where I can breathe, center myself, and let my thoughts settle naturally.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Because meditation is a hobby that doesn't require talent or preparation, only presence. And it can bring a surprising amount of emotional clarity and peace into your daily life.
And perhaps that's why hobbies matter so much. They give us a chance to pause, reflect, and reconnect with the deeper parts of our hearts that often get lost in the noise of the world.
Yes, hobbies act like gentle reminders to slow down and breathe, inviting us to create a space where we can nurture our emotional well-being with kindness and intention.
Sometimes I think hobbies are the closest thing we have to personal therapy, because they allow us to release emotions, explore our creativity, and understand ourselves without judgment or pressure.
Exactly. And when we allow ourselves to enjoy those emotional benefits, we return to our daily responsibilities with a more centered mind, a lighter heart, and a deeper sense of purpose.
It's fascinating how talking about hobbies makes me feel more inspired to try new things, to experiment without fear, and to remember that life isn't only about survival, it's also about joy and curiosity.
That inspiration is important, because when we welcome new hobbies into our lives, we also welcome new possibilities, new emotions, and new insights about who we are and who we want to become.
I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned from hobbies is that growth doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it happens quietly, through small moments of joy that slowly change the way we feel inside.
Yes, and those quiet moments of growth are often the most meaningful, because they come from authenticity rather than expectation, and from connection rather than pressure.
Before we continue, I want to remind our wonderful listeners again to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your support is what allows us to continue creating these long, heartfelt conversations that help you learn English in the most natural way possible.
Yes, thank you so much for staying with us through these deep reflections. And we truly appreciate every comment you send. It shows us that these conversations matter to you as much as they matter to us.
You know, I've realized something important. Hobbies don't have to be productive to be valuable. They only need to make your heart feel lighter, your mind feel clearer, and your spirit feel a little more alive.
Exactly. Because the value of a hobby is measured not in productivity, but in joy, peace, and expression, and those emotional benefits are priceless in a world that often asks too much of us.
I also think hobbies help us develop patience, because when we learn something slowly, when we allow ourselves to make mistakes and try again, we grow emotionally in ways we might not even notice at first.
Yes, patience is a beautiful side effect of hobbies, because they encourage us to embrace the process rather than focus solely on the result, teaching us to enjoy the journey rather than rush toward the finish line.
Do you ever feel that hobbies help you stay connected to your inner child, the part of you that still wants to play, explore, and create without worrying about what others might think?
Absolutely. And I think that inner child is still alive in all of us, waiting for moments when we allow ourselves to feel curious, imaginative, and free again. And hobbies open that door beautifully.
The more we talk, the more I realize that hobbies aren't just something extra in life, they are essential for emotional balance, creativity, and happiness, and they deserve to be treated with care and intention.
And I feel the same. This conversation is reminding me how important it is to honor the things that bring us joy, even if they seem small, because those small joys create the foundation for a meaningful and emotionally healthy life.
You know, as this conversation continues, I'm realizing how much peace comes from simply acknowledging the activities that bring joy into our lives. Because hobbies remind us that even in the middle of stress or uncertainty, there are still small, gentle things that give meaning to our days and help us stay connected to the best version of ourselves.
Yes, and what I love most about hobbies is that they don't ask anything from us. They don't demand perfection. They don't expect results. They simply invite us to be present, to express ourselves freely, and to find comfort in the quiet moments we often forget to appreciate.
Sometimes I think about how different the world would feel if more people made time for their hobbies. Because happier people are kinder, more patient, more understanding. And hobbies help create that inner happiness that naturally spreads to everyone around us.
I believe that too, because when we allow ourselves to enjoy something purely for the sake of joy, it softens our hearts and brightens our minds, and we begin to treat ourselves and others with more compassion and warmth.
Another thing I've noticed is that hobbies often help us discover parts of our personality that we didn't even know existed, like hidden talents or forgotten interests that quietly shape our identity in beautiful ways.
Exactly, because hobbies act like windows into our inner world, revealing our preferences, our curiosities, and our emotional needs. And when we look through those windows honestly, we begin to understand ourselves on a deeper, more human level.
It's interesting how a simple hobby can evolve into something much bigger, sometimes into a passion, sometimes into a habit that brings healing, and sometimes even into a dream we never realized we had.
Yes, and that evolution is beautiful because it happens naturally and quietly, without pressure. As though the hobby gently guides us toward a path we were always meant to explore, but never had the courage to follow.
Before I forget, I want to remind our wonderful listeners once again that if you're enjoying this long, heartfelt conversation, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your support is what allows us to keep creating meaningful, natural English content like this.
Yes, and your comments especially help us understand what topics you enjoy most, and they inspire us to create more episodes that match your goals, your emotions, and your English learning journey.
You know, sometimes I worry that in our busy lives, hobbies can easily disappear if we don't protect them intentionally. Almost like soft flowers that need sunlight and space to grow.
That's such a perfect way to describe it, because hobbies really are like delicate flowers, and if we neglect them for too long, they begin to fade, taking with them the joy and creativity we once felt so naturally.
And what's even more interesting is that when we return to our hobbies after a long break, they always welcome us back without judgment, offering the same comfort they always did, almost as if they were patiently waiting for us to come home.
Yes, that warm feeling of returning to something familiar, something that understands us without needing words, is one of the most comforting experiences. And it shows how deeply hobbies nourish our emotional world.
I think the most beautiful thing about hobbies is that they allow us to experience life at our own pace, not the world's pace. And they remind us that slowing down is not only okay, but often necessary for emotional well-being.
And slowing down helps us notice the things we usually ignore, the way colors blend on a canvas, the sound of pages turning in a book, the feeling of soil between our fingers when we care for plants, all those small moments that bring peace to a busy heart.
Do you ever feel that hobbies not only help us discover ourselves, but also help us rediscover parts of life that adulthood sometimes makes us forget, like curiosity, playfulness, and imagination?
Absolutely. Hobbyists reconnect us with the childlike spirit inside us, the part that wants to explore, create, experiment, and enjoy without fear or judgment. And that inner reconnection is incredibly healing.
And maybe that's why hobbies matter so deeply. They restore pieces of our identity that the world sometimes takes away. And they remind us that happiness doesn't need to be loud or extraordinary. It can come from the simplest, quietest expressions of joy.
Yes, and that quiet happiness is often the most meaningful kind because it grows slowly and steadily in our hearts, becoming a source of strength that supports us through both peaceful and difficult moments in life.
And to all our listeners, if this conversation is inspiring you to return to your hobbies or discover new ones, please let us know in the comments and subscribe, like, and share. Because your voice is part of this podcast's story, and we truly appreciate your presence here.
Yes, we love hearing about your hobbies, your experiences, and the ways English learning connects with your personal life. Because it reminds us that language is not just a skill, it's a way to express who we are and what we love.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I understand that hobbies are not just activities, they're emotional anchors, keeping us steady when life feels overwhelming and reminding us that joy can always be found in small, intentional moments.
And when we allow ourselves to hold on to these emotional anchors, we move through life with more confidence, more balance, and more gratitude. because we know we have something meaningful to return to, no matter what challenges we face.
Sometimes I imagine a world where everyone spends at least a little time each day doing something they love. And I truly believe that world would feel softer, kinder, and more connected.
Yes, because joy is contagious and hobbies create joy. And when people feel joyful, they treat others with warmth, patience, and understanding, creating a ripple effect of positivity.
I also think that hobbies help us build emotional resilience, because when we have something we enjoy outside of work or stress, we're able to recover from difficulties more quickly and maintain a healthier mindset.
Exactly. Hobbies give us emotional breathing space, allowing us to release tension and regain balance. And that emotional space is essential for mental health and long-term happiness.
Before we begin wrapping up this long and beautiful conversation, I want to gently remind everyone listening right now to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your engagement is the reason we can continue creating episodes that support your English learning and your emotional growth.
Yes, your support means so much to us. And every time you interact with our podcast, you help build a global community of learners who believe in deep, meaningful, human-centered English learning.
You know, after talking for so long about hobbies, I feel inspired to revisit some of mine, especially the ones I've neglected, because this conversation reminded me how alive and balanced they once made me feel.
And I'm feeling the same. I want to return to painting with a fresh heart, not to create something perfect, but simply to enjoy the feeling of colors moving across a blank canvas and expressing emotions that words sometimes cannot hold.
It's amazing how sharing thoughts like this with someone makes everything clearer. Almost like speaking aloud helps untangle the emotions inside and brings a sense of calm that wasn't there before.
Yes, conversations like this are healing because they give us time to reflect, understand, and connect. Not only with each other, but also with the parts of ourselves that we often ignore in the rush of daily life.
I think what I'm taking away from today is a deeper understanding that hobbies are not luxuries, they are necessities for emotional health, identity, and happiness, and they deserve a place in our daily lives.
And I'm taking away a reminder that slowing down to enjoy something simple is not wasting time. It is honoring our humanity, nurturing our hearts, and creating a life that feels more balanced and meaningful.
It feels beautiful to realize that the things we enjoy quietly, the things we do just for ourselves, can have such a powerful impact on our overall well-being and outlook on life.
Yes, and when we embrace these joyful activities with intention and love, we create a softer, more compassionate version of ourselves, one that moves through the world with more grace and appreciation.
Before we end today's episode, I want to express my gratitude to every single listener who stayed with us through this entire 200-turn journey. Your presence makes these conversations truly meaningful.
And I want to thank you as well, because your dedication to learning, reflecting, and growing with us makes this podcast feel like a shared emotional space where language and humanity come together beautifully.
So once again, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share this episode with anyone who wants to improve their English while connecting to real, emotional, human conversations.
Yes, your support helps us continue building this community. And every interaction you make tells us that these long, natural conversations are helping you on your English journey.
I hope that after listening to this episode, you feel inspired to make time for the hobbies that bring you joy, peace, and purpose, no matter how busy life becomes.
And I hope you allow yourself to enjoy your hobbies without guilt, without pressure, and without judgment, simply for the happiness they bring to your heart.
May your hobbies guide you gently back to yourself whenever life feels overwhelming, reminding you that joy can always be found in the things you love.
And may they help you express your emotions, discover your creativity, and reconnect with the beautiful, curious spirit that lives inside you.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Your presence means everything, and we're honored to be part of your English learning journey.
Yes, thank you for listening with your mind and your heart. It's a privilege to share these conversations with you.
Until next time, remember to take care of your mind, your heart, and your hobbies. They are all important parts of who you are.
And as always, keep learning, keep growing, and keep enjoying the simple joys that make life beautiful. We'll see you in the next episode of Frema English Podcast.